are all a little narcissistic. While I know that sounds terrifying to us, Dr. Nick joins us this morning to explain it. Oh my goodness, that's such a dirty word these days.
We hear it over and over and over again in the political world right now.
And I think a lot of us have gone, what exactly is the definition?
What is that? And is he one? Is she one? You know, what is narcissism? I think we have to be very careful not to pathologize what is that human condition to be a little bit self-centered.
Okay.
Self-focused. Remember, it comes from the story of Narcissus, and I'm being oversimplistic, but he sees himself in the water and falls in love with his reflection, and becomes almost obsessed with that. And that's, as I said, over. But you see what we get, we can pull narcissistic from that.
Right, because you see nothing else except your little world.
Yes. But the real issue with narcissistic wounds, if you can call it that, in the human condition, is for every one of us, there are things that are said or behaviors or actions that we interpret as somehow hurting us, and we have to attack. For instance, if one of my buttons was feeling stupid, okay, and you called me stupid, do you hear how that pushes my defenses? And nothing else matters. No matter how well I'm doing in grade, that someone has said I'm stupid, it resonates with that history of feeling wounded if I've been told all my childhood that I was stupid.
Sure. So what does the high end of the narcissistic person do at that moment? Do they attack? Do they fight back against that person who said that they're stupid? I guess I'm looking for the signs.
Great question, Whitney. Thank you. I mean, you're right into it now, because it is a matter of how I can be aware of what my wounds are and what my triggers are, if you will, to my narcissistic side. One of my, I can tell you a few of mine.
Okay.
If someone says I made a mistake and I didn't do it well, I can just kind of almost crumble, and I have to catch it. Oh. And say it was just a mistake. If I didn't return a phone call, and 3 or 4 days later someone calls and says, well, you're not a very good therapist, I'm like, oh, you hear, it just kind of takes me down. But now I've got 7 other things that are going great. So I have to pull myself and say, okay, that's the wound. It's the skull. It just hit me. It's the scab.
Somebody just ripped off.
Does that make sense? Or any, I'm trying to think of any other examples. We've all got those wounds in us.
Okay, but
that are tapped, and so what we've got to do is be aware of it.
Okay.
Catch it. And allow it to kind of dissipate with that's okay. That's okay, and almost nurture the wound a little bit. That, you know, I'm really not a mistake. I made a mistake, and I don't need to get defensive about it, or I am a good therapist. My value is to call back within 24 hours. It doesn't always happen.
Right. I'm not stupid. I did something stupid.
Yeah, I did something stupid.
You know, when you said the stupid thing. Yeah. And I think all of us
and I don't want to get into the election, but I do remember that one moment in the debate.
Number 3.
Debate number 3, when Hillary Clinton said to Mr. Donald Trump, oh, you're a puppet. And I could see, and I'm not making a judgment, I could see in him a visceral change, that somehow that wound had been hit. And again, we all have it. I'm not talking about him. We all have it. We have to know where it's strong. But you could tell that just was not going to sit well.
Well, and maybe one of the defining qualities is this too, because going back to that debate, he came out very composed, very calm.
Focused.
And that puppet comment came, and he was wild the rest of the debate.
Yes. But again, I want to be very careful. This is not about judging Donald Trump as a narcissist.
We're just using it as an example.
It's about an example of how it can just shake us. And back to your question again, which is the more powerful one. Don't get caught up in the title or in the diagnosis or in the pathology. Be aware of what triggers that sense of I'm not good enough, or I've got to fight back, or how dare him or her call me that. or say that about me. I see this all the time, and we're like, where's the trigger? What's that coming from?
Yes. And if we get obsessive about it, big red flag.
Someone said not long ago, used the word, I'm going back to the stupid again.
Okay.
And I said, well, what does stupid mean? And he said, well, thoughtless, careless. I said, not intelligent? He said, no, not that.
Oh.
And I thought, wow, now that's interesting.
Because that's not even my definition.
But
nor
you hear
Webster's.
how it just kind of, it hit.
It hit
struck.
something.
But again, by the way, those are great therapeutic moments. When you do feel that that wound has been hit, or somehow you're getting all defensive and you're losing your way, that's the moment to stop and say, where's this coming from?
Okay.
Why am I reacting to this? Why am I losing focus when she calls me a puppet? I'm just, as an example,
right.
Why am I not staying the course? You know, when someone says you make a mistake, or you're not any good at this, or you know, if I feel it sometimes with the band.
Do you?
Yeah, well, sure, because I see all these bands playing, and I play, and I don't go out and market, but I can feel somehow at times it hits the wound a little bit, like, oh, am I not good enough?
Why am I not playing there tonight?
Why am I not playing? They're better than me. Do you hear that kind of? It's all very self-centered. Instead of, wow, I'm happy with what I do and what I've got, and the gigs that I get, and the fun times that I have, and the pleasure that I receive from it. Thank you for bringing this subject up. I think it's fascinating.
Yes, and let me ask you one quick question too. Is there a medication for narcissism? I don't think there is, but while we're talking about the subject,
you know, that's not my area of expertise,
right.
So I think it's a very good question.
Yeah. But you certainly say that there are ways internally to manage that you know.
There are.
It's not in a pill.
When you say to me, if you were to say to me, well, you can't even return your phone calls in a timely manner, it's my responsibility to figure out, why is that having such an effect on me? When I know that I'm really very good at returning calls in a timely manner.
Absolutely.
I'm just using that mistake as an example of how we can get caught up with somehow I'm not good enough. There's an insecurity, obviously, underneath all of that.
That's interesting.
All of that. Whitney, what do we say? We often say that the greatest happiness is when I'm not self-conscious.
Oh, right.
The greatest tragedy is when we're so self-conscious we can see nothing else.
It's what we were talking about that week with the gospel choir. If you're going to go experience it, something lose yourself in it.
Yes.
Not self-conscious.
Lose your consciousness. Don't worry about, is somebody going to think I'm stupid or not, I don't have rhythm, or look at that crazy guy. Lose the consciousness. Yeah. That's why I enjoy our segment so much, is because while I would hope that we bring both of us experience into this, there's a loss of self-consciousness. We're not reading from a script. We're just kind of allowing the moment to happen. And I think that's how we enjoy life.
I do too.
Instead of reacting to it.
Engaging in it.
And engaging in it, and making plans, and having goals, and having a kind of an internal power source that charges us to get ready for those moments when the storms come, or when the negative comments come, or when the bad things happen to us.
Sure.
Or if somebody calls us something that we don't like, or we even get fired. Any of these things.
Well, good, and we'll know there are triggers, and we'll deal with them better. Thanks. Great advice.
Yeah. So
Great
we're
insight.
all a little narcissistic.
We're all a little narcissistic.
And so what? Life goes on. Life goes on.
Just try to stay on the lower end.
Stay on the lower end, right?
The spectrum. More of Weekends with Whitney after this.
As I go look at myself in the mirror. Bye, everybody.